So first, let us start with some keywords in Java. Last class, we have seen this keyword, and I'll show you some more examples, and then we will discuss a static keyword. So the next one is this keyword. And in Java, there are so many keywords are there. Like this is one keyword, static, final. Okay, and we'll discuss one by one. So first thing, this keyword. So where we have to use this keyword. So before using this keyword, we have to understand about variables. There are two kinds of variables, two types of variables we have in Java. One is called class variables, and the second is local variables, class variables and local variables. So these are the two types of variables which we have in Java. Class variables, which are also called as instance variables, and then local variables. And in Java, we don't have global variables. Okay, some other programming languages, we have local variables and global variables. But here in Java, we don't have a global variables. We have just only class variables, and the second is local variables. Okay, let's try to understand, because this keyword is related to this one. And why we don't have global variables, so that also I will show you. So let's go with the Eclipse and create new package. Today is day 13. Say finish. Okay, now inside this, I'm creating new class. I'll name it as this keyword and take this main method and say finished. Okay, so in this, if I look at this class and method, this keyword is a class and which contains a method. Main is a method, right? So if you create any variables outside of methods, that means within the class, anywhere within the class, they are called class variables. So for example, if I create a variables like this x comma y, these are all class variables. These are class variables, or we can say instance variables, class variables or instance variables. And whatever variables we created inside this method, it can, in case of main method or any other method, if you create variables inside of the methods, call them as a local variables. Or sometimes we'll receive the parameters here. They are also called as a local variables. Okay. And what is global variable? So global variables means the variables which are defined outside of the class. Suppose if I create variables here outside of the class, here we call them as a global variables. But in Java, we cannot create anything outside of the class. Everything should be part of the class. It can be method, variable, whatever. Everything should be part of the class. So outside of the class, we cannot do anything else. So that is the reason we do not have concept of global variables in Java. So we have only class variables and local variables. Okay. Now, in this main is a one method, right? So let me create another method in the same class. So I have created two variables, x comma y. And to assign the data into these variables, I can create either constructor or I can create a method. Anything is fine. So first, let me create one constructor. So how to create a constructor? Constructor is meant for what? Initializing the data in a variable. So this keyword, this is my constructor. And this particular constructor will take, I'll take two parameters. Let's say int a comma int b. Now again, I'm reassigning a into x and again reassigning b into y. So like this, I have created one constructor. So if I look at here, x and y are the class variables and a and b are the local variables. So the parameters also the local variables. And if suppose if you create any new variables inside this method, they are also comes under local variables. What is the main difference between these two is the class variables we can access everywhere in these methods. In all the methods in the class, we can access these variables. Whereas the local variables we can access only within this method. They are limited to this method. That is a difference. Class variables we can access in all the methods in the class, whereas local variables we can access only within the method. In whichever method we created, only within that method we can access the local variables. Okay. Now I have just created one constructor and assigned the data into X and Y. After that, I will create a normal method just for printing the values of X and Y. So I can create one more method, void display. And in this, I will just print the values of X and then I will print the value of Y. Okay, this is an additional method I have created just for display the data of X and Y. So far everything is clear. So we have just created one constructor which will take two inputs and assign the same data in the X and Y. And then I printed X and Y values using display method. Now come to the main method. So how to access all these things? From the main method, I will create an object of this keyword. Let's create object, this keyword, th equal to new, this keyword. So once you created an object, what will happen? This will try to invoke constructor, right? So as soon as you created an object, because this class contains a constructor, so it is trying to invoke the constructor. But if I look at here, the constructor is expecting two parameters, but we have not passed anything here. So we have to pass two parameters. So let us pass two parameters. Let's say 100, 200. So two integer parameters I'm passing. So at the time of object creation, this constructor will automatically invoked, and 100 and 200 will be received in A and B, and then again reassign them into X and Y. So after that, by using this object, I will call display method so that it will display the values of X and Y. So everything is clear. When I execute this, you will get the values of X and Y, 100 and 200, perfectly fine. So now if I come back to this part, X and Y are the class variables. Here A and B are the local variables. Now if I use same variables, like same names, class variables and local variables, then what will happen? Suppose here also I will say X and Y. And here I will assign X into A, X and Y into Y. If I do like this, then what will happen when you run the Java program? It will give you 0, 0. So why it is giving 0, 0 means, okay, here we are using same names, local variables and class variables. And internally what we are doing, we are assigning this X value into X, Y value into Y. When you do like this, it will not throw any error. It will run the program. There is no syntax error, nothing, but you will get incorrect output. So these type of errors called logical errors. These type of errors called as a logical errors. In Java, there are two kinds of errors: syntax error, logical error. Syntax error means what? Suppose if you miss semicolon or if you miss some bracket, right, instead of lowercase character, if you write uppercase character, so that comes under the syntax errors. But this is not syntax error. Logical error means program is correctly executing, statements are correctly written, but the output which we are getting is incorrect. So the logic is not correct. So why we are getting 0, 0? Because when you assign X into X and Y into Y, this method or constructor will confuse, like when I say simple X and X equal to X, which X belongs to local variable, which X is class variable. It doesn't know that. Similarly, which Y is class variable, which Y is a local variable, it doesn't know that. So what simply it will do is it will assign the default values in X and Y. So it is 0, 0. The default value of integer variable is, if you're not specifying any value in X and Y, by default 0, 0. Integer variable value is 0. So it is getting simple 0, 0. This is a problem when I use same name class variables and local variables. Now to overcome this problem, still I want to use the same variable names. So what we can do is we can simply use this keyword. So this is representing a class. So this dot X equal to X and this dot Y equal to Y. So now when I say this keyword, this dot Y, X means what? This is representing the class. Now this X is belongs to the class. This Y is belongs to the class. Okay, now we can differentiate like this. So wherever you see this keyword, this is always representing the class. Okay, now it is differentiated. So it will understand which one is class variable, which one is a local variable. So this time we will get the output like this. So this is the main usage of this keyword to differentiate the local variables and class variables. We can use this keyword. And not only in the constructor, even it is a method, it is the same process. Suppose for assigning the data into the variables, instead of constructor, I will create, let's say I will create one method, user defined method. Let's say void, I call it as a set data. Okay, same thing. I'm taking two parameters. Let's say int a comma int b. Now assign the data, and in y I will assign b. So this time we created user defined method. I commented this constructor. So this will not work. So now we need to create a normal object without parameters. So this keyword th equal to new this keyword. Okay, so just normal default constructor. And then before displaying the data, we have to call that method. Because it is a method, we have to explicitly call through object. If it is a constructor, at the time of object creation, it will automatically execute. But if in case of method, we have to call it through object. So th dot set data, and here we have to pass the data. Let's say 100 comma 200. So again, this is the same thing. So when I execute this, and set data method is got called, and 100 and 200 is assigned to a and b, and again reassigned to x and y, and we got the values. And suppose if I use same variables, again same problem you will get. Let's say x and y I'm using here also x and y, and then save it. And when I run this again, you will get 0 0, because the local variables and method variables are same. So now we need to use this keyword, this dot x, and then here also this dot y. So whatever the properties are applied for constructor, almost the same thing is applicable for method also. So you got a values. So this is how we can use this keyword, simple concept. So this keyword will be used to differentiate local variables and class variables. So this keyword is always representing the class. This keyword is always representing the class or object. Okay. So is this clear, everyone? So where exactly we want to use this keyword? And in Java, we don't have a global variables concept. If anybody is saying global variables, that is incorrect terminology in Java, because in Java, we don't have a global variables. Global variables means we have to define those variables outside of the class. But without class, we can't do anything else in Java. Within the class only, we can do everything. So global variables concept is not there in Java. Only the class variables and method variables. But in Python, we have a global variables concept. Outside of the class also, we can define the global variables. But in Java, we do not have global variables. We have only two types of variables, class variables or local variables. Okay. This is about this keyword. Now, we will discuss one of most important keyword. And we are using it, but we don't know exactly what it is. That is static keyword. Static keyword. This is a very important and little confusing topic also, and we need to carefully listen this. The main class variables are also class variables. No, the main class variables, the variables which are defined inside this main method, are again local variables. See, the variables which are defined inside this method, main method, if I create some variables here, they also local variables for the main method. Okay, and if you want to access this x and y, you can access inside the main method through the object. Through the object, we can directly access these variables, right? So these are again class variables. And whatever variables we created inside the main method, we can call them as a local variables. You can use different variables also. Nothing wrong in that. Okay, but the thing is, if you're using a different names for the variables, the maintenance will be difficult. You can't remember. Okay, if it is small program, you don't see any issue. But if you're writing a bigger program, so many classes, so many constructors, so number of variables will be increased. So many variables you have to write. Okay, and that is the reason. If you say same variable names, no problem. Even if you are using different variable names, still no problem. You can still use it. Nothing right, nothing wrong in that. Okay. Right. So now let us see one more keyword called static. Listen this very carefully because this is a little bit confusing topic, static keyword. And if you focus, you can easily understand static keyword. So before understanding static keyword, so first thing, the static keyword can apply for variables and also methods. We can apply the static keyword for variables and methods also. We can create static variables. We can also create static methods. Simple. When you put the static keyword in front of the variable, that variable becomes a static variable. Similarly, if you put this static keyword in front of the method, which is called as a static method. So we have totally 4 different type of variables and methods. Static is irrespective static. Like the static variables and static methods, non-static variables and non-static method. What is non-static method, non-static variable? Simple. If you specify static in front of the variable, that becomes a static variable. If I don't specify static, that's a non-static variable. Same thing. If you specify static in front of the method, we call it as a static method. And if you don't specify static, we call this a non-static method. Okay, simple. So whatever method we created simple here in every class, these are all non-static because we have not specified any static. And in case of main method, here we can see static keyword. So this is a static method. If I don't specify static, these are normal methods, non-static methods. Okay, remember this. Now we need to understand something. When we have to use static keyword and why we have to use static keyword and what is the benefit of using static keyword. So let us try to understand this with an example. And then we will see practical implementation of static keyword. So I'll explain this with scenarios, different scenarios, and you can assume those scenarios and you can try to understand this. And also in the middle of something, I will also ask some questions and you should answer that. Okay. Just a second. So let us say I have something called a new class here. This is my employee class. Okay. So in employee class, I will define some variables. Let's say employee name, employee ID, salary, department number. Along with this, I will create some methods. Let's say bonus calculation method. So I can create some methods. And this is one class which we have. Employee name, EID, salary, department number, and bonus, and so on. So basically the class contains variables and methods. Now for this particular class, we can create n number of objects. There are so many objects, multiple objects we can create. So I'm creating multiple objects. Let's say this is my one object. Let's say this is my EMP1 object. And this is EMP2 object. And this is EMP3 object. I can create n number of objects, right? So these objects are independent. Even though these objects are derived from the same class, these objects are independent because these objects will occupy a different space in the memory. So EMP1, EMP2, EMP3 totally different. And as soon as you created an object, what will happen normally? The object will acquire their own copy of the variables and methods from the class. So what is EMP1 object is having now? EMP1 is having same EMP name, EID, salary, department number, and then bonus. And here EMP2 also having same variables, ename, EID, salary, department number, and then bonus method. Same EMP3 is also having same variables, ename, EID, salary, department number, and bonus. So like this, every object is having their own copy of variables and methods acquired from the class. This is a normal scenario. So suppose, let me tell you a different case. When you create an object, the object is independent and object will acquire their own space and it will acquire their own copy of the variables and methods from the class. After that, what you will do? We will operate the objects, right? Once you create an object, we will always work on the objects, not on the class. So after creating an object, then what you will do? By using this reference variable, object variable, we will try to assign some data into the variable and then we will perform some operations. Let us say here I will assign some data, ename some X, EID some number, salary some number, DPT number some 10, like this. And here also EMP2 also I will assign some data like this, employee ID 102, salary something, and DPT number 20, like this. And EMP2 also I can assign some data. This is the next task. So once you created your class, we can create multiple objects. Once you created an object, through the object variable, we can access all the variables and method which are belongs to specific object. So far this is clear. Now my scenario is, suppose if these employees are belongs to same department number. Let's assume this scenario, okay? These employees are belongs to same department number, which is 10. Okay, let us assume these employees are belongs to same department, which is 10, department number 10. In that particular case, for every EMP object, we have to assign the department number. Let's say here I have assigned 10. Here also I'll assign 10. Here also I will assign 10. So let us say I have 100 objects like this. In every object, we have to assign the data along with other variables, even department number also, we have to assign 10, right? If you do like this, there are two problems. So the one problem is the same department number we are repeating in every object. In every department number is same, right? Every object or every employee department name is same. Even though it is the same, we have to assign. There is no other way. Because if you assign department number for one object, that will not reflect on another employee object, right? Because objects are independent. So here we have to assign 10, here we have to assign again 10, here we have to assign 10. Every object we have to assign same number. If you do like this, there are two problems. One problem is, suppose tomorrow these people are moved to some other department. Let's say currently all these people are belongs to department number 10. Now they have moved to department number 20, for example. Then what is the problem? We need to modify this number in every object. We have to update this department number value in every object. If I create 20 objects, in 20 objects, we have to go and change it. That is a one problem, modification. Or we can say updation. Modification or updation is one biggest problem. Because if these people are moved to some other department number, we need to go and change each and every department number in object levels. That's the first problem. Now the second problem. So here department number 10 will occupy, let's say 1 KB size in memory. And here also 1 KB, here also 1 KB. Total how much size it is occupied? Let's say 3 KB size is occupied, because every object is independent. Every variable needs a memory. Some amount of memory required in space required in the memory, right? So As soon as you assign data into the variable, definitely it needs some memory, and this will need another memory. This will need another memory. That means even though the values are same, because those variables are belongs to different objects, it will occupy a different spaces in the memory. So that means memory also wasted. Memory also, sorry, memory is also one of the problem because of duplication. Why memory problem? Because of duplication. So same number we are assigning into variables in multiple objects. So this is also occupying different space in the memory because of duplication. The memory is also one of the problem. This is the current scenario. And assume that if these people are belongs to same department number, then only these two problems which we have. Right. Now, in this particular case, what I can do is how to solve these two problems. First is wherever you specify this variable department number in the class, we can directly assign the data here because this value is common across all the objects. Right? This value is same across all the objects. So if any value is the same, we can directly specify that in the class itself, hard code here itself, right? And make this variable as a static. Make this variable as a static. Then what will happen is, whenever you make any variable as a static, only for this particular variable, a separate memory will be created. Here, DEPT number will be stored. Only for this particular variable, a separate memory will be created. And here the 10 will be stored. And another thing is, this particular variable becomes the common variables across multiple objects. That means this particular DEPT number 10 is a common variable across multiple objects. Normally, there will not be any common thing between objects, right? Every object is independent. As we already understood earlier, every object will occupy different memory and they are independent. There is no relation between these objects. But if you make any variable or method as a static, that method or variable becomes common variable or common method across multiple objects. Okay, that's the first point. So we can make that variable, we can directly assign the value to this variable and we can make it as a static. As soon as we make it as a static, that variable becomes the common variable across multiple objects. And one more thing, if you make this variable as a common and assign the data, do we really need to assign the data here through the object? No need. This is not required. Okay, because we already assigned the data and the department number. That variable is a common, which is there in EMP1, which is same thing is there in EMP2, same thing is there in EMP3. How many objects we created? In every object, this DEPT number will be there already. So if it is already there, you no need to again assign the data into the DEPT number for every object. Okay. So once you specify this variable and you understood the problem, right? What is the problem? If the variable values are common across multiple objects, what is the problem here is modification. Duplication is a one problem and memory will occupy. To solve these two problems, we will make this variable as a static and assign some data into the variable because that value is common across all the objects. So we can directly assign the data into this variable and make it as a static. What is an advantage of static here is this variable becomes common across multiple objects. And now modification. Suppose if these people are moved to some other department number, so I no need to modify in every object. Directly go here and change it here. Make it as a 20. That's it. That will reflect in every object. Why? Because this variable is a common across all the objects. Okay. And not only here, you can still have 10, no problem. You can change this value by using any of this object. Okay, because as soon as we make it as a static, this is a created separate memory, right? So this variable we can update by using any of this object. So if you, let's say EMP1 dot DEPT number equal to 20, that will automatically reflect in EMP2 and EMP3 also. And if you update this variable like EMP2 dot department number 20, that is also reflect in EMP1 as well as EMP3. Same thing, if you update this variable like emp3 dot department number 20, that also reflect in emp2 and emp1 also. That means if any changes happen in this variable, we can directly make the changes in the class level, or we can make the change of this variable by using any of this object. Any object you can use. So that will reflect in every place. So that is the main advantage of static keyword. Okay. So when I create a variable as a static, that variable becomes a common variable, shared variable. We can say common or shared variable between all the objects. So that variable you can update, you can change the value of the variable by using any of this object. That will reflect in all the other objects also. If you make the change by using emp1 object, that will automatically reflect in emp2 and emp3 also. If you make the change by using emp3 object, that will automatically reflect in emp2, emp1 also. Why it is happening like this? Because it is a common variable or it is a shared variable between multiple objects. So we can update this variable directly by using a class, or we can update this variable by using any of the objects. So that is the main advantage of static. So when we have to go with the static, so by using the static, we can overcome these two problems. So modification or updation, if you modify in one place, that will automatically update it in all the objects. So this problem, first problem is solved. But how memory will be solved? Memory problem. When you add this data in every object level, let's say here 1 KB, 1 KB, 1 KB. Now, when I make this as a common variable, here it's just only 1 KB. Here we no need to assign, here we no need to assign, here we no need to assign. So instead of 3 KB, we just used only 1 KB, only one place. So memory is also saved. So to overcome these two problems, we can use static keyword. But there are some restrictions. When we have to use static keyword, when we should not use static keyword. If you find any data is commonly required, or if any data is a common across multiple objects, if any data is common across multiple objects, then only you can create that variable or method as a static. Otherwise, don't do that. Okay, don't do that. So if these values are different from one object to another object, don't use static keyword. It is not recommended. Just create a normal variables and assign the data into the variables by using an objects. But if you find any data or any variable data common across multiple objects, then make that variable as a static. Same thing, if the method implementation is same for all the objects, then make that method as a static. Otherwise, don't do that. Okay, so only few members shift to other department. If you have such type of scenarios, don't use static keyword. That is not recommended. So static keyword is recommended only if you have a common data across multiple objects. If not, don't use a static keyword. Okay, static keyword is recommended only if you have a duplicate data across multiple objects. Even if one object is different value, don't use static. So first two objects are having 10, another object is having 20, another object is having 30 department number. Don't use static. Just create a normal variable because this value is not common. So you cannot make it as a static. If you make it as a static, that becomes a common variable. If you do change in one place, that will automatically reflect in all other objects. So your case will not work. Okay, so static keyword will be used only if that variables values are common across multiple objects. If the values are not same, not common, don't use static keyword. So is this everybody understood? This is a scenario, but this scenario I'm just taking just for an example. Don't think all employees are belongs to same department. Employees belongs to different type of departments. There's a different case. I'm just telling the case, just scenario I have taken here. In case any variables are common, the values of the variables are common across all the objects, then make them as a static or else no. Yes, you can put employer name, state, country. Yes, so those are normally common, right? Employer name. So whatever employees are working in the organization name is always same. State, country. Yes, they are exactly the same. So in such case, you can make them as a static because the same values will be there for every type of object. But if the values are different, salary is different, we should not make as a static. Employee ID is different, we should not make it as a static. Okay. So this is a scenario where we have to use static, where we should not use static. Is this clear, everyone? So please confirm in the chat box. So now I will show you some examples. But when I create a static variables or static methods, there are some access level restrictions are there. So which we need to understand now. Okay. Fine. So if anybody asks you in interview, when static keyword is required, what is the use of static? You should explain with some example like this. Right. So now let us see some example. So we have static keyword we can apply for variables and methods. And also, if you don't use static, we call them as a non-static variable, non-static methods. If you apply static, we call it as a static variables and static methods. Okay. Now, so when I use static keyword, there are some access level restrictions are there. We cannot directly work with the static variable, static methods, just like a normal variables and normal methods. So we will try to understand them. So go to Eclipse and I will create new class. It says static demo. And also I'm taking main method in the same class. And remove this main method. Now, can you guys tell me main is a static method or non-static method? Main is a static method or non-static method? Main method. Non-static method or static method? It's a static method because you can clearly see static keyword in front of the main method, right? So this is a static method. Okay. All right. So now in this particular class, I will create some variables like static and non-static. Similarly, I will create some methods like static methods and non-static methods. Let's do that. So I'm creating one variable called int a, and I can directly assign the value to this. And this is a normal variable, non-static. If you want to make this variable as a static, you have to say static keyword. Now this becomes static variable, static int a equal to 10. So this is what? Static variable. This is static variable. And int b equal to 20. And here I have not specified static keyword. So this is a non-static variable. This is non-static variable. Similarly, I will create one method. Let's say void m1. This is one method I'm creating. In front of this, I will say static. Then this becomes a static method. Now inside this, I'm writing a simple message. This is m1 static method. So this is a static method because we specify the static in front of this method. So this method is a static method. And also I will create one more method, void m2. And here I will just print, this is just a non-static method. Non-static method. And here I will just print something. This is m2 non-static method. Okay, now if I look at this, in the class, I created two variables. One is static variable, other one is non-static variable. Similarly, I created one static method, other one is a non-static method. And anyway, main method we already have, which is also static method. Okay. Now, if you want to access this, if you want to access these variables or methods, normally what we have done so far, to access the variables and methods from the class, what we have done, we have created an object of the class, and through the object, we are able to access everything, right? Through the object, we are able to access the variables and methods and everything. And where we have created that object? Inside the main method. Inside the main method only, we have to create an object. Only through the object, we are able to access everything, right? So far, we have done like this. Now, what I'm saying is, The static variables and static methods we can directly access without creating any object. Okay, that means where we are creating an object in the main method, right? So main is what? A static method. So the static methods can directly access static variables and static methods. There is no object required. There is no object required. That's the first point. Static methods can directly access static variables and methods. Okay, that's the first point. So the first point is what? Static methods can access static stuff directly. That means static stuff in the sense what? Static variables and static methods. And static methods can directly access static stuff directly without creating any object. Without creating any object. What does it mean? Main is a static method. So the main method can directly access static variable and static method without creating any object. Without creating any object. That's the first point. Because why? Main is a static method. Variable is also static. The method also static. Everything is static. So we can directly access without creating any object. Let me show you. So here I'm trying to access A. How to access? Normally when we create an object, through object we will access. But here I'm not creating any object. I can directly get the value of A. See, I'm directly accessing. I'm not created any object. Similarly, I will directly call M1 method. I'm not created any object. If you run this code, it will give you the result. So you can see the value of A is got printed and the M1 method is got executed. So why I'm able to call these two directly? Because main is a static method, A is a static variable, M1 is also static method. Everything is a static. Means the static method or methods can access static stuff directly without creating any object. This is the first point. Okay. Static variables, static methods can access static stuff directly. This is an example. Okay, let us try to access non-static stuff and see the difference. So here, just like A, I'm trying to access B. And just like M1, I'm trying to call M2 directly. It is giving an error. What is an error it is giving? If I put the cursor here, it is saying cannot make a static reference to the non-static field B. It is clearly saying you're trying to access non-static variable. It is not possible. Similarly, if you look at here, M2 cannot make a static reference to the non-static method M2 from the type static demo. And also it is giving a suggestion also. What is the suggestion? Change M2 to static. If we make M2 also static, then we will able to directly access. Similarly, in case of B also, if we make B as a static, then we will able to directly access. Right? So what does that mean? Static variables and static methods we can directly access from the static methods without creating any object. This is the first point. This is the first point. Static methods can directly access static variables and static methods. And this is not possible. So these are direct access for non-static is not possible. Okay, so here cannot access. Why? Because B is non-static variable. Similarly, M2 also cannot access. M2 also directly cannot access. Cannot access. Why? Because M2 is non-static method. Non-static method. So this is the first point. Is this clear, everyone? The first point. Don't go beyond this. I will show you all the scenarios. First point is clear or not? Static methods can access static stuff directly without creating any object. And if I look at here, main is a static method, A is a static variable, M1 is also static method. So I have not created any object. I'm just directly access A value, I'm directly call M1 method. So we are getting an output. But when you're trying to access B and when you're trying to access M2, it is giving an error. Why? Because they are non-static. Okay, this is the first point. Now the second point. Static methods can access static stuff directly. Non-static stuff we cannot access directly. The second point is static methods can also access non-static only through object. Through the object it is possible. Second point. Static methods can access non-static stuff through the object. What is the difference between first point and second point? Static methods can access static stuff directly. Everything is a static, so we are able to access directly without creating an object. But in the second case, static methods can also access non-static, but it is not direct. Through object we can access. Through the object we can access. There is no direct access. Now observe here. So when I'm trying to access B and M2 directly, we are not able to access because they are the non-static variable, non-static method we are trying to access from the static method. So it is not possible. Now the second point what I'm saying is we can also access non-static through the object. Through the object. So now let us create an object of static demo class. Static demo sd equal to new static demo. Now I created an object. Through this object we can access. Now we can say system.out.println sd dot b we can access. Similarly sd dot m2 we can call. Okay, so we are accessing from static method only, but through the object we can access non-static variable, we can access non-static method through the object. Okay, now when I run this, you will get the result of B and also it will call M2 method. Okay, 2 points are clear. So static methods can directly access static stuff without creating an object. But when you're trying to access non-static stuff, only through object it is possible. We cannot directly access. Only through object it is possible. These are the 2 points. Now the third point. Now first 2 points we are able to access. We are trying to access from the static method, which is main method. Now the third point. Non-static methods can access everything directly. Non-static methods can access everything directly. Non-static methods I'm talking. So I will create one more non-static method here. Let's say void m. This is non-static method. This is non-static method. So what I'm saying in the third point, non-static methods, there is no restriction. All the variables, all the methods we can directly access. It can be static, non-static, no matter. So okay, just observe. So this is M. Now here I'm trying to access A and B also. You can see system.out.println A, I'm able to access. System.out.println B, I'm able to access. I can call M1 accessed. M2 also I can call. See this? I have not created any object. First of all, we can't create any object in the non-static methods. So objects will be created only in the main method. So in any other methods, objects we cannot create. Okay, so when you're trying to access the variables and methods from the non-static, we can directly access. There is no restrictions for that. Everything we can directly access from the non-static method. But when you're trying to access from the static method, there are restrictions. So from the static methods, we can access static variables and methods directly, and we can access non-static stuff through object. But when you come to the non-static methods, we can access static, non-static variables and methods directly. There is no restrictions for the non-static methods. That's the third point. Non-static methods can access everything directly. But how to call this non-static method? Where we have to call this? Where we can call this? From the main method only. And again, if you want to call this from the main method, do we need object or not? Yes, because this is a non-static method. M is again non-static method. We need an object, right? So sd dot m. So when you call m method, then what happens? It will first print a and b values. Then it will call m1 method. Again, method can call another method. Okay, we call M method. Internally, it will call M1 and again it will call M2 method. Okay, so let me just comment this and execute only this one. Only this one I'm going to. Object is needed, so object I create. So now observe, I'm just calling only M, which is non-static method. So we got everything. So first we printed A and B values, 10 and 20 printed. Then we call M1 method. This is output of M1. Then we call M2. This is output of M2. So that means non-static method can access everything directly. There is no restrictions. But only the static method is having restrictions. Even in static methods also, static variables and static methods we can directly access, no problem. But only the problem with the non-static variables. So we have to create an object. Only through object we can access non-static variables and non-static methods. So these are the 3 points. Everybody is clear or not? Please put in the chat window. 3 points, very, very important. When you're working with the static variables and static methods, you have to remember these points. So wherever you see static variables and static methods, we can directly access them from the main method. There is no second question. Okay, wherever you see static variables and static method, you can directly access them from the main method. Main is also static method. So we can directly access without doubt. Okay. But when you see non-static variables or non-static methods, then only you have to create an object and through the object you can access. And that is the point. Okay, so these are the 3 points which we have to remember when you're working with the static. Now I'll show you one more thing. Just observe. In this example, I put everything in one single file, right? So static demo contains a main method also. Main method also there in the same class. Now I will separate this main method in another class. Just observe. I'm creating another main class. Let's say static main class. Static main. And just observe this. Same main method. Just copy from here. And I will keep this main method in another class. Let's comment this. Okay, we are commenting this. So now this time I have separated main method in another class. Now just observe the first point. What is the first point? Static variables and static methods we can directly access from the main method, right? But here you can see it is giving an error. When you have main method in the same static demo class, we don't have any issues. We are directly able to access because A and M1 are static. Main is also static. We are able to directly access, no problem. But when you separate main method into another class, static main class, here it is giving an error. What it is saying, A cannot be resolved to a variable. Similarly, M1 is undefined for the type static main. So here it is started giving an error. So why it is giving an error? This is the main point. So when I try to access static variables and static methods within the same class using main method, we are able to access directly, no problem at all. But when you separate main method in another class, when I'm trying to access directly, it is giving an error. The problem is, this is a separate class. Inside this main method, I'm directly referring A and M1. So this main class doesn't know about this A and M1 from where we are calling them, where we have defined them, right? If you create them in the same class, then it can know that. Just like a previous example. In the same class, we created this A and M1. So it is able to recognize easily. But when you come to the separate class, here, this static main class is not able to recognize these two. It don't know exactly from where they are coming from. Okay, then how can we solve this problem? Just to specify the class name. Here also we can directly access, no problem, but we have to explicitly specify the class name. So from which class we created this variable? Static demo class. So here we say static demo dot A. static demo dot m1. This is the point. So when you have main method in the same class, you can directly access. Even class name is also not required. But when you're trying to access in another class, you have to specify the class name dot variable. Still, object is not required. Here also, we have not created any object to access the static stuff. Still, we're able to access. But we have to explicitly specify the class name. Okay, clear everyone? So, but if you have main method in the same class, no problem. You don't even specify the class name. You can directly access. But if you separate the main method in another class, you have to specify the class name, then variable, class name dot method. So this will work. In both the places, we are able to access directly. Here also we are able to access directly. Here also we are able to access directly. Only the difference is because this main method is in the same class, we no need to specify the class name here. But here, the main method is there in the separate class, so we have to specify the class name. So we got the output. This is the one difference. And when you come to the non-static stuff, there is no problem. So non-static stuff, we can directly, anyway, we are creating an object, right? So we can create an object through object. We can access B and M2. So when I run this Java program, you will get an output from there. So there is no problem with the non-static stuff. Even this also you can call directly sd.em, because we anyway at the time of creating an object, we are specifying the class. So don't problem. There is no problem with the non-static. Only problem with the static. So when you separate main method in another class, you have to specify the class name dot variable name, class name dot method name, especially for static. Other things not required. It will work as it is. Okay. Is this clear, everyone? So remember this point. So when you're working with the static keyword, all these points are most important. So when you make a private, you can't access anywhere else. Only within the class we can access. That's totally restricted access. So don't try to use private keywords every time, okay? And that is also not important for us. We make everything as a public by default. So when you make private, the variables or methods we cannot access anywhere else. Within the class only we can access. So here it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so everybody is clear, all 3 points. So based on that, I will ask one question. If you understood static keyword clearly, then you will be able to answer that question. Okay, now, so you guys can tell me the answer now. I will give you simple example. I have one simple class called test. Okay, in this class, I will have one string variable, string s equal to welcome. And now this is a static variable. This is a static variable. Now my requirement is, I want to access this variable outside of this class. That's my first requirement. I want to access this variable outside of this class. And once you access, I want to find the length of a string because it's a string variable which contains a string value. So I can find length of a string. 2 requirements. First step, I want to access these variables outside of the class. After accessing, I want to find the length of a string. Okay. So then how can we write the statement? First, how to access the variable from the test class outside of the class? Class name dot variable. Okay, now we are able to access. Because S is a string variable, can we apply all string methods on the S? Length method, subtract, concat, all string related methods I can apply because which is a string variable. So if you want to find length of a string, which method you can use? GTH. Right, this is a complete statement. And if I look at this, what is a test here? Test is a class. What is yes? Yes is a string variable. Also static. And what is the length here? Length is a method, predefined method, which is already there in the string class. Because yes is a string variable, I can apply all string methods on yes. Finally, this will return length of a string. Is this clear, everyone? This is clear, everyone? Yes. Now, You tell me this one. I have predefined class in Java, which is called system class. Okay, system class. In this, I have one variable called out. I have variable called out. So the type of the variable is what? Print stream type. Just like a string here. Here we have a print stream. And this is also a static variable. This is also static variable. And this doesn't have any value. It is simple one variable. Now I want to access this out variable from the system class. How to access? How to access? I want to access this out variable from the system class. Out is a static variable. System dot out. So because out is a print stream type, can I apply all methods on out variable, which are whatever methods are there in the print stream class. I can apply all those methods in the out variable, right? So string class contains length, caret, substring, concat, all those things. Similarly, print stream class is also having println methods. So here I can access print or println, right? Now, what is this system.out.println? What is system here? System is a predefined class in Java. Out is what? It is a print stream of variable of static type. What is println and print? The methods which are belongs to print stream class. Now you understood what is system.out.println. So far we are using it. Almost in every program we are using system.out.println. So this is how the system.out.println comes into picture. Okay. But normally methods may take parameters, may not take parameters, right? Println will not take any parameters. This again overloaded method. You can pass parameters, you may not pass any parameters. Whatever is there in the println, that will just print in the console window. That's it. So this is all about system.out.println. So in the system.out.println, system is a predefined class and which contains out variable of print stream type and static variable, which is already there in Java. So now we can access this out variable from the system class. System.out. Out is what? A print stream type. So I can apply all the methods on the out. Println, print, these methods are belong to print stream. Just you have to simulate with this. Here length is related to string class, right? Same thing here, println, print is belongs to print stream class. So if you understand this one, you can easily understand this one. So what is system.out.println? If anybody ask you in the interview, you have to explain this. System is a predefined class. Out is a static variable of a print stream type. Println is a method which is a part of print stream class. Here, test is a class. S is a string variable of static. Length is a method which is belongs to string class. Similarly, here also system is a class. Out is a print stream variable of static. And println method is belongs to print stream class. Print stream is a predefined class in Java, just like a string. That means it both are not same. Okay, string is a different, print stream is a totally different. Both are predefined. In Java, they are already there. Print stream is also there, just like a string. And a string contains a different type of method. Similarly, print stream is also contains a different type of method. Print and println is the most popular methods which are there in the print stream class. So that's how system.out.println command come into picture. So so far we are using it, but we don't know exactly what it is. Now we have understood what exactly it is. What is system.out.println? Understood, everyone? So what is system.out.println? If anybody asks you in the interview, you should be able to explain with this example. If you understand this, you can easily understand this. This is related to static keyword. So that's the reason we haven't discussed this in the previous classes. So now you have understood about the static keyword. So that's the reason I'm just introducing this. System is a predefined class in Java. Out is a static variable. Println is a method which is belongs to print stream. So that's how system.out.println statement is got formed. Any doubt in this? Anyone? This is most important and very basic also. If you understand this example, you can easily understand this one. Shivaji, are you clear? Print stream is just a class. Just like a string, print stream is also another class which is already there in Java. Okay. Now let us understand something else. We are using main method in every class. So main is the actual method from where execution will start. JVM always look for the main method to start executing your program. And in whichever class you have a main method, you are trying to execute that class. If you don't have a main method in the class, you cannot execute that class, right? So now we will try to understand what is main method, how to write the main method: public, static, void, main, and which takes parameter, string, args, a parameter, right? This is the main method we are using every time. System class, what is the confusion here? System is a predefined class. System is just a class name, which is already there in Java. I'm just writing here. So everything is already there in Java, predefined. They are designed by Java itself. And we no need to understand what exactly they are and all those things. We just trying to understand this statement. System is a predefined class. Out is a static variable. Println is a method, which is a part of print stream class. That's it. What is the confusion you have? Whenever you create a class, start with the system. S is a capital letter. Similarly, system, here we always start with the uppercase character because this is a class. Class names will start with uppercase character every time. Okay. Now let us try to understand public static void main. So far we are using this method, but now we'll try to understand in detail what is public, what is static, what is main, void main, and other parameters. Okay. So in public static void main, first keyword is public. Public means this method accessible everywhere in the project. So this method is a public. Public means completely open. There is no limitation in access. Everywhere in the project, every package in the project, wherever you have a main method, you will be able to access. That is the reason they make it as a public. And static means what? The main method is a common across all the classes, all the objects everywhere. So they make main methods common. That's the reason they make it as a static. Void means what? The main method will not return any value. So void. String args means what? It's a array arguments. So this method can take array as an argument. Array parameters also argument. So that's the reason they make string args. And the main thing is JVM, Java Virtual Machine. We understood at the beginning, right? JVM is the main responsible for executing your program. So JVM, Java Virtual Machine, always look for this method in your project. So in whichever class, wherever you have this main method, the JVM will go there and directly execute that particular class. Okay. So normally how we have to handle this is, let us say you have a project structure. So you have n number of classes. Let's say C1, C2, C3. You have created n number of classes in your project. In every class, we don't write main method, right? Different classes are there. And all these classes we will control from one class, main class. Here we will have a main method. So JVM, when I execute this project, so this is everything is one single project. This is all one single Java project. So when you run this project directly, the JVM will look for the main method wherever it is. In which class the main method is available. Throughout the project, there are so many classes are there along with the main class. So in which class the main method is available, it will go and search for it. That's the first thing. So wherever it is find this main method in the main class, execution will start from here. So here we will create all the objects of all these classes. And then we will operate through objects. Okay. So public, why they're making as a public? Because the main method can be there anywhere in the project. So JVM should able to access main method anywhere from this project. So it should be public. And static means what? It's a common across all objects. That means what? This main method should be there, common. Wherever you created main method, you should able to, JVM should able to access directly. Static means what? Direct access, right? So when JVM trying to access main method, it will directly access. No object is required. That's the reason they make it is a static. So main method, JVM directly can call without creating any object, without referring to any class. How it is possible? Because of static keyword. And void means what? This main method will not return any value. That's the reason they make it as a void. And main is the name of the method. And string is a type and args array. This single dimension array, which will take as a parameters. So that's how this method is got designed. Public is an access modifier. Static means is a keyword that represents we can JVM directly call this main method without creating any object. And void means there is no return value for the main method. String args is nothing but a string array. It will take as a parameter. Args is just a variable, array variable. You can put x, y, whatever you want. Anything is accepted. This is just like a single dimensional array. Will take parameter. Okay, that is the meaning of public static void main. Now, I will tell you something here. You should tell it is valid or not. Okay, normally how we will write a public static void main, this is the right syntax. This is the valid syntax. Public static void main. If you write a main method exactly in the same way, the JVM will able to recognize and JVM will start executing the main method. Suppose, can I write main method like this? Suppose, let's take the same main method. What I will do is, here, I will keep this static keyword in front of the public. Is it valid or not? JVM can recognize this method or not? At runtime, JVM can recognize this method or not? I just changed these two keywords. I just interchanged. Is it valid or not? This statement, this method, still it is valid. Still it is valid. Why? Because the keyword order is not important. Okay. The JVM is always look for this main method is public or not, static or not. That's it. Here it is a public and static. Here it is also public and static. Condition is satisfied, right? So JVM will able to recognize this main method. So these keywords we can interchange like this. This is still valid. This is still valid. Okay, now I'm writing the main method like this. This is the first case. This is the valid. Now this is second case. This is also valid. Just we change static and public, interchanged the keywords, but still the keywords are there. Now the third case. Public void static main string args. Valid or not? This is invalid. Okay, why it is invalid? Because the return type always should be in front of this method. Okay, return type you should not separate. So whenever the method name start, before that void should be there like this, void main, void main. So the return type always should be before this name of the method. It should first comes. So this we should not separate anywhere else. Okay, so we separated void here. So that is the reason it is invalid. It is incorrect syntax. So before this method, return type must be there. But here before this method, what we specified? Static. That's the reason it is not allowed. So return type must be there before method. This is invalid. Now the fourth one. void main string args, okay, public static, valid or invalid. Is it valid or invalid? It is invalid. It is invalid. Okay. Because after closing this method, you should not write anything else. Okay. After this closing this method, you should not write anything else. Whatever you want to specify, that should be beginning of the method. After closing this parameter bracket, you should not write anything. Immediately the bracket should start. After closing this bracket, the curly brace should start. Okay, in between you should not put anything else. So that's the reason this is invalid. It is invalid. Now, see this. Public static void main int a bracket. Is it valid or not? Public static void main int a bracket, valid or not? Okay. This is still valid method. Why? JVM will not execute the code from here. JVM is looking for different type of method. What type of method JVM looking for? This one. String arguments it is looking for. But when you write a method like this is not actual main method. But it is just like a treating as a normal method. In overloading concept, we created multiple main methods, right? So this is another type of main method, not exactly main method which we are expecting. Got my point? So this is again still valid method, but it is not actual main method which we are expecting. This is not exactly the same as other main methods. It is just like a normal method. JVM will not recognize this. Okay, whatever JVM recognizing, this is not that method. Got my point? This is just like a normal method. So observe this. In the class, we can create multiple methods, right? Like say main, one method, main with 2 parameters, main with the 2 parameters. Okay, then main method with the string args. Like this is the method actually JVM will look for. But whatever method here we have written, the parameters got changed. The data type is got changed. So this will not exactly match with the string argument. So JVM will not look for this method. But still this method is valid because this will treat it as a normal method, not an actual main method. Guys, you understood? Any confusion here? Yes. After writing this method, still you have to write another actual main method. Because this method cannot recognize by JVM. JVM will treat this method differently. It will treat this main method just like other type of main method, not an actual main method from where execution will start. So if you write this main method, again, you have to write an actual main method. So this main method, again, you have to write. Okay, because JVM will look for this one, not this one. But still it is valid. Guys, any confusion you have understood why it is valid? Yeah, this is still valid method. Overloaded method, that's it. It is another overloaded method. Because we can have any number of methods with the main, right? But syntax is different. Parameters should be different. So JVM always look for main method only if we have this type of syntax. If you do some small change, it will not accept. These two you can just interchange, public static, but rest of them exactly should be there. I mean, this also you can interchange. You can put args before this bracket. This is also fine. And you can change this parameter. This is also fine. Sub A also you can find. Finally, it will check this is string type or not, single dimension array or not. That's it. So this is valid. So this is valid, but both are not exactly the same. So JVM look for which main method, the second one or first one? JVM is looking for second one. Okay, this is the method JVM look for. Okay, this is another method, just like a normal method. Right? So remember these points. So interview perspective, these are all most important. Okay, they will ask you these type of questions. So by seeing them, you should not be confused. Okay, you should be more clear about this. All right, so this is all about static keyword. So practice this for today's session, and this keyword and static keyword. And also we have understood what is system.out.println, which we are using every day, but we don't know exactly what is system.out.println. So now we have understood. Also, we have understood what is public static void main and what are these keywords. And the next session, we will start another object-oriented programming concept, which is inheritance. Okay, so meanwhile, you can just practice this for today's session, and tomorrow we will continue with other things.